I didn't panic when I found the envelope taped under my truck's dashboard. My hands were steady as I pulled it off, feeling the weight of what had to be cash or maybe drugs. I knew exactly who put it there, my son Thomas. I sat there in my driveway in Oakville, Ontario. The November wind was shaking the truck windows, and I made a decision that would change everything. I carefully took out the envelope, walked across the gravel to where Thomas's Honda Civic was parked, and I placed it in his glove compartment. Then I went inside, made myself a coffee, and waited. 23 minutes later, I heard the sirens. Let me back up. My name is Richard, and I'm 64 years old. I spent 37 years working maintenance at a steel plant in Hamilton before I retired. My wife, Catherine, died 4 years ago from cancer. We raised 2 kids in a small house, saved every penny, and somehow paid for both of them to go to college without them having to borrow money. That was our gift to them, our legacy. Thomas is my youngest. He's 39 now, married to a woman named Vanessa, who works selling medicine. They have a 7-year-old daughter, my granddaughter, Lily. For years, I thought I knew my son. I thought I understood the man he'd become. I was wrong. It started 3 months ago. Thomas asked to borrow my truck for the weekend. He said his car was in the shop. Something about the transmission. I didn't think twice about it. He'd borrowed the truck before when he needed to carry something from IKEA or pick up wood for a project. I handed him the keys and told him to fill up the gas tank when he was done. When he returned at Sunday night, something felt off. Thomas was nervous and kept checking his phone every 30 seconds. When I asked if everything was okay, he snapped at me. "Yeah, Dad, everything's fine. Why wouldn't it be?" Then he apologized quickly, said work was stressing him out, and left. The next morning, I found a small plastic bag stuck between the driver's seat and the center console. It was empty, but it had a chemical smell. I'd been around long enough to know what it was. My stomach dropped. I told myself it could have been from anyone. Maybe someone at the plant had used my truck, and I'd never noticed. Maybe it wasn't what I thought it was. But deep down, I knew. The second time Thomas borrowed the truck was 6 weeks later. He called me on a Tuesday evening, said his car was acting up again, and asked if he could use the truck Wednesday morning for a quick errand. I said yes. I always said yes to my son. This time, I paid attention. When he returned it that afternoon, I watched him from the living room window. He sat in the driver's seat for almost 5 minutes after parking, talking on his phone, looking around nervously. When he finally came inside, he was sweating despite the October cold. "Thanks, Dad," he said, handing me the keys. "You're a lifesaver." "Anytime, son. That's what family's for." He hugged me. My boy hugged me, and I could feel him shaking. After he left, I went out to the truck with a flashlight. I checked everywhere, under the seats, in the glove box, behind the sun visors. Nothing. I was about to give up when I noticed the carpet by the pedals was slightly lifted. I pulled it back and found phone. Not a smartphone, one of those cheap prepaid phones you can buy at any convenience store. I turned it on. There were dozens of text messages, all in code. Numbers, addresses in Toronto, times. One message made my blood run cold. "Your old man's truck is perfect. Nobody checks a grandpa." I sat in that truck for an hour, reading through everything. My son was using my vehicle to transport drugs. The boy I'd taught to ride a bike. The kid who'd cried when we had to put down our dog Max. The young man I'd walked across the stage at his college graduation was a drug dealer, and he was using me as his cover. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed to understand the full picture. I put the phone back exactly where I found it, smoothed down the carpet, and went inside. I barely slept that night. Catherine's voice kept playing in my head. Something she'd said when the kids were teenagers and had gotten caught sneaking out. Trust is earned twice. Once when they're honest with you, and again when they fix their mistakes after they lie. Thomas hadn't been honest with me, but I was going to give him a chance to fix this. The next morning, I called him. "Thomas, I need to talk to you about something important. Can you come by the house this weekend?" There was a pause. "Sure, Dad. Is everything okay?" "We'll talk Saturday." Saturday came. Thomas arrived alone. He said Vanessa had taken Lily to her parents' place in Burlington. We sat in the kitchen, the same kitchen where Catherine used to make pancakes every Sunday morning, where we'd help both kids with their homework, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays, and all the small moments that make up a life. "I found something in my truck," I said. His face went pale. "What do you mean?" I slid the phone across the table. His hand shot out like he was going to grab it, then stopped in midair. He looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize. There was calculation there, weighing options, deciding whether to lie or tell the truth. Dad, I can explain. Then explain. And he did, sort of. He told me he got involved with some people in Toronto, that he owed money from a business investment that went bad. He said these people offered him a way to pay it back. He swore it was just a couple of runs, just enough to clear his debt. He said he was done now, that it was over. Every word was a lie. I could see in the way he wouldn't meet my eyes, the way his story kept changing small details. When I asked how much he owed, he said $20,000, then $30,000. Then he said he wasn't sure exactly. Thomas, I said quietly, you used me. You put me at risk. If the police had pulled you over, that's my truck, my name on the registration, I could have lost everything. I know, Dad. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking clearly. And Lily, what about your daughter? What happens to her when this catches up to you? He started crying then. My son, nearly 40 years old, sobbing at my kitchen table like he was 7 again and had broken something valuable. I've messed everything up, he said. I don't know how to fix it. I wanted to comfort him. Every instinct I had as a father wanted to pull him into a hug and tell him we'd figure it out together. But something stopped me. Maybe it was a memory of finding that phone, of reading those messages that talk about my truck, like it was just another piece of equipment. Maybe it was the thought of little Lily growing up with a father in prison. Or worse. Thomas, you need to stop today. Right now. Whatever you're involved in, you walk away. I can't, Dad. These aren't the kind of people you just walk away from. Then we go to the police. We tell them everything. We cooperate. We get you protection. His face changed. The fear vanished, replaced by something cold. I'm not going to prison. Son, if you keep doing this, prison is a best-case scenario. He stood up. I need to go. Thomas, wait. But he was already out the door. I sat there listening to his car start, listening to him drive away, and I knew with absolute certainty that my son wasn't going to stop. He was going to keep using my truck, keep putting me at risk, keep dragging our family deeper into whatever darkness he'd found. That night, I made a decision. If Thomas wouldn't protect himself, I'd have to protect him another way, and I'd have to protect myself, protect Lily, protect what was left of our family. The next time he asked to borrow my truck, I said yes. It was a Thursday morning. Thomas showed up at 7 o'clock, said he needed it for a few hours to pick up some building materials. I handed him the keys and watched him drive away. As soon as he turned the corner, I got in Catherine's old Corolla and followed him. He didn't go to any hardware store. He drove straight to a Tim Hortons parking lot off the QW, where he sat for 15 minutes before a black Mercedes pulled up beside him. A man got out, looked around, then got into my truck with Thomas. They talked for maybe 5 minutes. When the man left, he was carrying a large shopping bag. Thomas drove to 2 more locations that morning. Same pattern each time. Meet someone, talk briefly, exchange bags. By the time he returned my truck at noon, I'd taken photos of every location, every person, every license plate. Thanks, Dad, he said, handing back the keys. Really appreciate it. No problem, son. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my computer looking at the photos, trying to decide what to do. I could go to the police and turn over everything I had. But Thomas was right about one thing. The people he was involved with wouldn't take kindly to that. Even if Thomas went into witness protection, what about Vanessa? What about Lily? I thought about Catherine. What would she do? She was always smarter than me about these things. Always knew the right thing to say, the right way to handle difficult situations. I imagined her sitting across from me at the kitchen table. That look on her face when she was thinking hard about something. You have to stop him. I could almost hear her say, but you have to do it smart. The plan came to me slowly, piece by piece. It wasn't perfect. It was risky, but it was the only way I could see to protect Thomas from himself while keeping the rest of us safe. 3 weeks later, Thomas called again. Dad, I hate to ask, but can I borrow the truck tomorrow afternoon? Just for a couple hours? Of course. I'll leave the keys in the visor. You're the best, Dad. This time, I knew what I was doing. After Thomas picked up the truck, but before he started his route, I drove to the Oakville OPP station. I walked up to the front desk, my hands shaking, and asked to speak with an officer about suspected drug trafficking. They took me seriously. An officer named Constable Morrison, maybe in her mid-30s, with kind eyes that reminded me of Catherine's, listened to everything I had. The photos, the messages from the phone I'd photographed, the locations, the pattern of behavior. I told her I believed my son was making a run that afternoon, that he was using my truck, and that I needed her help. Mr. Pedon, she said, what you're doing takes a lot of courage. I'm terrified, I admitted, but I'm more terrified of what happens if I don't do anything. My granddaughter needs her father, even if that means her father has to go to prison to get help. They move fast. Constable Morrison brought in a detective, a man named Singh, who specialized in drug trafficking. Within an hour, they had a plan. They'd intercept Thomas during his run, search the vehicle, and make the arrest. They'd try to get him to cooperate, to give up the people above him in exchange for a reduced sentence. We can't make promises, Detective Singh said, but if your son cooperates fully, if he provides valuable information, the Crown Attorney will take that into consideration. I understand. There's one more thing, Mr. Pedon. We need to be sure there's actually contraband in the vehicle. If you were willing to verify. That's when I told him about the envelope I'd found that morning taped under the dashboard. I discovered it at 6 a.m. when I went out to check something in the truck. This time, I didn't remove it. I just took photos and came straight to the police. But I didn't tell them everything. I didn't tell them about the decision I'd made the night before, the decision that if they were going to search my truck anyway, if they were going to arrest my son anyway, I wanted it to happen sooner rather than later, before Thomas got deeper, before he couldn't come back from this. So that morning, before I went to police, I did remove the envelope, and I did place it in Thomas's car, in the glove compartment, where any routine traffic stop would find it. Then I went to the police and told them my son was using my truck to transport drugs. The operation was supposed to be simple. They'd follow Thomas, wait for him to make his first stop, then move in. But I'd changed the equation. When they ran Thomas's license plate through their system for surveillance purposes, a patrol unit in Burlington flagged it. They said they'd been watching that vehicle, had reasonable suspicion. 23 minutes after I got home from the police station, 3 OPP cruisers surrounded Thomas's Honda Civic in a grocery store parking lot. They found the envelope in his glove box. Inside was $40,000 in cash and enough fentanyl to charge him with trafficking. My phone rang an hour later. It was Vanessa. Richard, they arrested Thomas. They're saying he had drugs in his car. They're saying he's a dealer. This has to be a mistake. You have to help him. Where's Lily? I asked. She's at my mother's. Richard, please. You have to do something. Vanessa, listen to me very carefully. Take Lily and stay with your parents. Don't go home. Don't talk to anyone who calls unless it's me or a lawyer. Do you understand? What? Why, Richard? What's going on? Just trust me. I'll explain everything, but right now I need you to keep Lily safe and stay away from the house. There was a long silence, then quietly, you knew. I found out. I tried to help him stop. He wouldn't. Oh my God, Richard. I'm sorry, Vanessa. I'm so sorry. But this was the only way. She hung up. I stood there holding the phone, feeling like I just pushed my own son off a cliff, hoping there was a net below. The next 3 days were a nightmare. Thomas was denied bail. The Crown argued he was a flight risk, that he had connections to organized crime, that the amount of fentanyl in his possession showed he was a significant dealer rather than a low-level courier. The evidence was overwhelming. I visited him at the detention center. On the 4th day, they brought him out in an orange jumpsuit, handcuffed. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. When he saw me through the glass, he picked up the phone on his side. You did this, he said. His voice was flat. Dad, you put that stuff in my car, Thomas. Don't lie to me, Dad. Not now. They told me the envelope they found wasn't what they were expecting to find, that their surveillance said you'd driven my truck that morning, but the drugs were in my car. You moved it. You set me up. I took a breath. I found it in my truck. I moved it to yours. And yes, I called the police. Why? Why would you do this to me? Because I love you. Because you're my son, and I watched you destroy yourself, and I couldn't stand by and let it continue. Because Lily needs her father. And the longer this went on, the more likely it was that she'd never have one. I'm going to prison because you love me? That's your logic? You were already going. To prison, Thomas. It was just a matter of time. At least this way, you have a chance. The police want you to cooperate. They want the people above you. Detective Singh told me if you give them good information, they'll work with the Crown Attorney. You'd get out in 3 years instead of 10. And you thought you had the right to make that decision for me. I leaned forward and looked my son in the eyes. When you used my truck without my permission to transport drugs, you made me an accessory. You risked my freedom, my home, everything your mother and I worked for our entire lives. You made that decision without asking me. So yes, I made a decision without asking you. I chose to protect myself, to protect Lily, and to protect you from yourself in the only way I could think of. Thomas slammed the phone down and walked away. The guard had to come get him because he was just standing there with his back to me, shoulders shaking. I sat there for a long time after they took him back to his cell. Over the next 2 months, things got worse before they got better. Vanessa filed for divorce. She moved with Lily to her parents' place in Burlington and got a restraining order against Thomas. His lawyer advised him to take the deal the Crown was offering. 15 years, eligible for parole in 5 if he cooperated fully and showed rehabilitation. Thomas cooperated. He gave them everything: names, addresses, supply chains, distribution networks. The information he provided led to 17 arrests, including 2 people police had been trying to catch for years. The charges against him were reduced. He was sentenced to 8 years, eligible for parole in 3. The day of his sentencing, he looked at me from across the courtroom. I couldn't read his expression: anger, sadness, relief, maybe all 3. After the trial, Detective Singh approached me in the hallway. "Mr. Peton, I know this couldn't have been easy. What you did saved your son's life. The people he was involved with, they don't let people walk away. Eventually, he would have ended up dead or in prison for life. This way, he has a chance. Does he see it that way? Eventually. Maybe not now, but eventually. I go see Thomas once a month. He wouldn't talk to me for the first 6 months. Now he does, but our conversations are short and surface level. He tells me about the programs he's taking in prison, the work he's doing in the library, the GED classes he's helping teach other inmates. He asks about Lily. I show him photos on my phone. She's 8 now, doing well in school, taking piano lessons. He doesn't ask about Vanessa. They're divorced now. She's dating someone, a teacher from Lily's school. I met him once. He seems like a good man. Last month, something changed. Thomas called me on a Wednesday evening, which wasn't our usual day. When I accepted the collect call, his voice sounded different. "Dad, I've been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of therapy. They have programs here that help you understand why you made the choices you made. That's good, son. I want you to know I understand why you did it, what you did. I'm not saying I'm okay with it, but I understand. And my therapist says that understanding is a first step." I felt something loosen in my chest, something that had been tight for 2 years. "I'm glad you're getting help, Thomas. I'm going to be a better father to Lily. When I get out, I'm going to be the dad she deserves. The dad you were to me before I screwed everything up. You were always a good kid, Thomas. You made some bad choices, but that doesn't change who you are underneath. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think Mom would have done what you did if she was still alive?" I thought about that for a long time. Catherine, with her gentle strength, her ability to make the hardest decisions look easy. Yes, I finally said, she would have done exactly what I did. She would have done anything to protect you, even from yourself. There was a long pause. Then, "Tell Lily I love her. Tell her Grandpa Richard is the best grandpa in the world, and she should listen to everything he says." "I will, son. I'll tell her. Now I see Lily every weekend. Vanessa drops her off Saturday morning, picks her up Sunday evening. We bake cookies, watch movies, work on jigsaw puzzles. She talks about school, about her friends, about her piano recital. She asks about her dad sometimes. I tell her the truth in ways an 8-year-old can understand. I tell her that her daddy made some mistakes, and he's learning how to do better, that he loves her very much, that sometimes people we love need help, and sometimes that help looks different than we expect. Last weekend, while we were making chocolate chip cookies, Lily looked up at me with flour on her nose and said, "Grandpa, my teacher says family means we take care of each other no matter what. Is that true?" I thought about Thomas in prison, about the choice I'd made that put him there, about Vanessa rebuilding her life, about Lily growing up with her father behind bars, about Catherine, gone 4 years now, whose wisdom still guided me every day. Yes, sweetheart, that's true. But sometimes taking care of each other means making really hard choices. It means doing something that might make people angry at us because it's the right thing to do. Like, when you make me go to bed even when I want to stay up? I smiled, exactly like that. She nodded, satisfied with this answer, and went back to stirring the cookie dough. I learned something through all of this, something Catherine tried to teach me. But I only truly understood when I had to make the hardest decision of my life. Love isn't just about making people happy. Sometimes love means setting boundaries, even when those boundaries hurt. Sometimes love means letting someone face consequences, because consequences are the only thing that will save them. I think about that envelope often. The one I found taped under my dashboard. The one I moved to Thomas's glove compartment. People might judge me for that. They might say I betrayed my son, that I should have found another way. Maybe they're right. I'll never know. But I do know this. Thomas is alive. He's getting help. He has a chance to rebuild his relationship with his daughter. 5 years from now, he could be out on parole. He could have a life ahead of him. That wouldn't have happened if I'd done nothing. The people he was involved with don't offer retirement plans. Eventually, Thomas would have ended up dead in a ditch somewhere, or in prison for life with no possibility of parole. Or, worst of all, he would have gotten someone else killed. There's a photo on my mantle from Lily's 7th birthday, right before everything fell apart. Thomas is holding her on his shoulders, both of them laughing at something Vanessa said. Every time I look at it, I remember that father, that joy, and I hold on to hope that somewhere inside the man in the orange jumpsuit at the detention center, that father still exists. 3 years from now, when Thomas is eligible for parole, I'll be there at his hearing. I'll tell the parole board about the programs he's completed, the remorse he's shown, the father he's working to become. I'll advocate for my son the same way I work to stop him, because that's what family means. Not that we never hurt each other. Not that we always agree. Not that we let each other destroy themselves out of misplaced loyalty. Family means we love each other enough to make the hard choices. We protect each other from external threats. Yes, but sometimes we also have to protect the people we love from themselves. Even when it breaks our hearts. Even when they hate us for it. Even when we lie awake at night, wondering if we did the right thing. I still wonder. Probably always will. But when Lily hugs me goodbye on Sunday evenings, when Thomas calls me from prison to tell me about the positive changes he's making, when I think about Catherine and hope I made her proud, I think maybe I did. Maybe love isn't about keeping people happy. Maybe love is about keeping people alive long enough to find their way back to happiness. That's what I tell myself anyway. That's what lets me sleep at night. And that's the lesson I hope Lily learns as she grows up. The one I wish I could have taught Thomas before it was too late. Sometimes the people who love us most are the ones who won't let us fail, even when stopping us breaks their hearts. Trust your instincts about the people you love. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Address it directly, honestly, and quickly. Don't wait for the problem to solve itself. Don't make excuses for behavior you know is destructive. Set boundaries and enforce them, even with family, especially with family. And if you ever find yourself in my position, having to choose between protecting someone from consequences or protecting them from themselves, remember this. Consequences are temporary. Death is permanent. Choose life. Choose the hard conversation. Choose intervention over enabling. Choose love that looks like disappointment. Now over regret that lasts forever. That's my story. That's what I did. Whether it was right or wrong, I'll let God judge when my time comes. For now, I just keep showing up for Lily, for Thomas, for the family Catherine and I built together. Because at the end of the day, that's all we can do. We show up. We make the best choices we can with the information we have. We love imperfectly, parent imperfectly, forgive imperfectly, and we hope it's enough.